try again. If I hesitate to let you in, know that you be yourself or play a role. Tell all the boys or keep it low. If I say no, would you turn away or play me off or would you stay? Oh, Russian don't succeed. Let yourself up and try again. You can lift it up and try again, try again. Cause if at first you don't succeed, you can lift it up and try again. Lift yourself up and try again, try again.
Unmasking, I set it up. Flows is irregular. If it's lust in my eye, then I'm checking out the retina. Not trusting the lie under the flag of America. No freedom, stripped, we dumb. We don't even ask why we living life on like a rerun. Not good times, but a bad one at that. Smothered and feeling good, we don't never turn back from this deception, this inception. Planning thoughts in our brains so infested. No tranquility due to the inability of mankind to ditch the landmine. So gullible, so weak and feeble. Evil looking lovable, we grip its needle. Pierce it in the very veins, assuming bad will stay the same. So what we really don't want continues to reign. That's a lie, that's a lie. That's a lie, that's a lie. That's a lie, that's a lie.
Yeah, man. Absolutely sick. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We are here at Zounds Live. I am Justin with Zounds, and we have a special guest here with us. This is Zounds' very own gear expert, Juan. And Juan was just ripping it up on this Pioneer DJM-S. And we're going to do a big demo and walkthrough of this. Juan's going to tell you all about kind of who it's for, what the features are, quality of life improvements, and we're just going to have fun kind of messing around with it and seeing what this thing can do. So Juan, again, thank you so much for being here, man.
Pleasure. I'm excited to talk about the REV7. It is a personal favorite controller of mine, and I've had a great time with it over the last year.
For sure. Yeah, you personally owned one before the stream anyways, right?
Yes.
So this is just like, icing on the cake. You get to already use something right?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I've fallen in love with it. I come from a turntablism background, so traditional turntable and battle style mixer setup, and felt right at home on this, honestly.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, so before we started the stream, you were mentioning how the layout just feels a little bit more intuitive. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Definitely. Yeah, if we can get a top down on this, pretty much the layout is like a traditional turntable style battle layout. You got your individual deck sections, and then the mixer. It's very reminiscent of like Pioneer's like S7 mixer or S9. Just the layout pads are on the mixer section itself, as opposed to the deck section like traditional DJ controllers on the market. They're usually going to be crowded down here, and somebody coming from a turntable background, a lot of the action is happening here at your fingertips. And for me personally, and a lot of colleagues of mine, having all the pad modes down here, sometimes you could bump into things, and then having it back in the middle right here just feels right at home. And it's just great transitional piece for turntablists trying to get into the controller world. Something a little more compact, a little less bulky to move around, and still have the the ease and access of something digital like this.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. Yeah, so it just feels good to use.
Yeah, very much so.
So you're an old veteran, though. You've been doing this for decades, right?
Yes,
So-
yes, having a good time with it.
Cool. So what do you think these kind of, specifically the Rev7 kind of brings to the table versus other ones that make it kind of, is there things that make it more intuitive to play, easier to use, less barrier to entry, etc.?
Yeah, yeah. Coming from the turntable world into a controller world, especially like in a Pioneer club style mixers and stuff like that, the layout is pretty vastly different. Dealing with effects and stuff like that, but coming into this, felt right at home, like I said, and pretty much the one thing that a lot of people on the opposite side of the spectrum, coming from the controllers into this, may find awkward is the layout itself too. So it's kind of give and take on that. The pitch controls right here being at the top, that's reminiscent of a turntable being placed in a 90-degree angle in the battle style layout. Most people from a controller are probably not going to be comfortable with that, but honestly, it's not crowded up top. It's going to be pretty intuitive, even if you're coming from the controller background, but coming from the turntablist background, you're, again, right at home. The pitch fader,
Okay, yeah.
nice and smooth. You got a huge range on it, 8%, 16%, and 50%. And just, yeah, you literally feel like there's no barrier coming from the turntable background into this controller.
Okay. Awesome. So it just feels good.
Yeah,
Just feels
yeah.
good to use it.
100%.
It's such a huge thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I feel that way when we're doing like guitar demos. It's like, I wish I could show the viewers that this guitar feels good, but there's no way to describe it other than just saying it feels good.
Exactly. Yeah, that comes like even the feel of the platters. Like a lot of people see the LCD screen in the middle and think it's going to be some sort of compromise, where the mechanics of it are going to make it feel like maybe it's a belt drive turntable or something just completely off. But it feels like a real traditional turntable, even at the smaller size. And they did an amazing job with the technology on here. Like we even pull off one of the platters here, you'll see the inner mechanism. The platter itself is just a freely rotating ring around the center display, and you got some slip sheets on here. You could cut up your own traditional slip mats if you wanted and bring them in there. And thing is rock solid. It feels like
Okay.
a standard like Technics turntable, honestly. The torque is adjustable and it just feels great.
Cool. So yeah, you weren't lying. It's really catered towards that turntable style.
Yes.
Well, actually, speaking of that, let's. You want to talk about the display and maybe show some tracks? Because I thought that was so cool watching the tracks view there through the platter. So
Yes, I'll keep the volume down just so we can have some clarity. But when you're playing the tracks, you're going to get an overview. There's different views we'll cycle through in a few seconds, but honestly, the overview of the LCD here is showing you your live waveform, so you're not going to be glued to a screen for the most part. Most people call that Serato face. Half the DJs are literally staring at the screen while they're manipulating everything on the controller, but
Okay.
you get a general overview. You could have like your BPM, your tempo, your key on here, and if you look closely, you got the main section here showing your actual track. If I grab the left-hand deck, you can see it's actually mirroring the opposite waveform here,
love that.
and then an overview of the entire track that you're playing on the right deck on the right-hand side here. So you're essentially seeing both tracks on each deck, no matter where you're at, where you're working. You're going to see that overview as a whole.
Love that. That's so cool. I like that it's mirrored on the other side too,
Yes.
the same way with the
Yes.
main
And,
track on the right. So that's cool.
little customization on here too. You could actually change the view here. You could have this new proprietary overview, or you could actually switch through the displays. You can see a little more traditional like Serato layout with
Okay.
the information, and then you could upload your own logos.
Ah, yes.
Yeah,
Look
so
at that.
the other view is not showing right now because there's no artwork. But if they have
Okay.
track artwork, it would show the actual track artwork right
Cool,
there.
cool.
But yeah,
Well, we're biased, so yeah, we like that one.
Oh yes, oh yes,
Little Easter egg right there for us.
yes,
Looks great though. It's super crisp. So,
yes.
so what else is this thing? I know you mentioned the effects earlier as a kind of a cool draw for this one as well. So.
Yes, there's, I believe, 22 hardware effects built in. You got 6 buttons to activate each of them, but you can pretty much customize them to hold any of those 22 effects. Just to give some examples here, let's load
Just
up.
for like a quick grab. You mean if you wanted to manipulate stuff with
Oh,
those?
yeah.
Cool.
Let's just go ahead and load up a track here.
Oh, and before you get to that, just wanted to say we do have a comment section here in our chat visible. So if you guys have any questions, or if you want Juan to answer anything specific or demonstrate something, feel free to hit us up in the chat. We have that visible here. Or if you just want to say, hey.
Yeah, absolutely. So the effects, yeah, again, 22 internal effects, and you can still access Serato's built-in software effects as well.
Cool. Okay.
But yeah, there's a couple of new effects that Pioneer has implemented directly on the controller. Pretty much their duck down effect, as well as a couple of others, but the duck down is being one of my favorites lately.
Okay.
I'll give an example of that.
Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. When I move, you move, you move, you move, you move, you
Kind of repeats in a pattern while still bringing it down automatically.
Okay.
bring that back.
Okay.
You got
Yeah.
traditional ones like your break.
When I move, you move.
You can adjust the timing of the break as well. You got traditional ones like reverbs. Other stuff like
Classic.
flanger, classics.
It's a good sound, flanger.
Oh yes, you got a backspin. And then traditional echoes. You could adjust the parameters of everything so it could follow different time signatures and such.
Cool. Okay.
Nice little effect. You can adjust the effect parameters, half beat, 3/4. One of my personal favorites.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, everything is adjustable in there. You could cycle through the built-in effects holding shift. Holding the actual effect itself and then scrolling through. So flanger, phasers, high-pass filters, low-pass filters, rolls. There's just so much going on here. Yeah, and as you see, I was activating the effects with the paddles. The Pioneer's pretty much known to have the paddles on most of their controllers these days and most of their DJ mixers. If you bring it down, it's spring-loaded.
So return back.
Yep, it's great for like quick action. Pull it down. It feels
Yeah.
very intuitive. Or you can push it up to lock it into position.
Cool. Okay. I was just about to ask if it had that, but it's literally like everything's so clearly labeled. I mean,
Yes, yes.
you mentioned the effect button right there, and I'm like, oh, it literally has a beat effects submenu button right there
Yes,
labeled.
indeed.
So love it.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
It's dummy proof right now at this point, man. I love it. This is great.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
All right. So what else we got going on here? I see the section above over here on the top left and right.
Yes,
You want to talk about what's going on with this?
Yes, indeed. So, for example, let me pull this in. You got your tempo slider. Again, you could change the range. Once you're hitting that, you'll actually see the range, the display right on the jog wheel itself. So huge range. If you got Serato's pitch and time extension on there, you could drop this essentially negative 50%.
Okay.
And it's still going to maintain, pitch and transients and everything. We can
That is really smooth, actually. Yeah, for sure. Nice.
Yeah, so we got a key lock feature on there too. So as we are doing that, it'll still maintain pitch even at the slower and higher speeds.
Cool. Man, if only I had that like 20 years ago when I was trying to learn songs, So.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Oh, we got a comment here really quick from Philip in the chat. It says, "Hey there, what's the cost?" What is this? I believe $19.99 for the.
so too.
Yeah,
$19.99.
$19.99 there. And another one came in. Does the effect save after shutdown if you change it?
Yes, it will maintain the changes on the effects. I've done that multiple times, and yes, it is held onto the effects that I've saved. And you can actually save 2 separate banks of 6 effects. So if you save one set that is your primary favorite, you could literally save it as bank A, and then you could do a second set altogether and save it as bank B and just jump back and forth between the two.
Cool. Okay. And just the quick access there with the button.
Yes, yes.
Nice. I love that. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Cool. Yeah. Thanks for those comments, guys. Feel free to throw some more if you have any questions for Juan about this. Oh yeah. So, anyways, we were in the middle of talking about these slot pad buttons in the top left and right.
Yeah, we got pretty
very
much
curious.
your controls to jump up and down your playlist. So if you rotate on either deck, you could jump up and down a playlist or the actual crates.
Cool.
And then you can load the track in directly with the load feature. And if you double click it, it'll actually do an instant double. So whatever is on the opposite deck, it'll load pretty much an instant double directly into the deck. So
Cool.
quick changeovers if you're going to do something with the same track back and forth. Aside from that, a couple other transport controls. You got pretty much your sensor, which is a reverse. So if you got a curse word coming up or you're just looking for a quick effect, and it'll jump right back to where it was supposed to be on the track. So I like using that for quick little reverse fills. Like,
Okay.
and then you have the option to change the key of the song directly on the deck as well. Before most people would jump in the software itself, but
Yeah. Oh, I love you could do that right on the deck. That's cool.
yeah, you'll see the key value actually jump up and down.
Yeah. Okay. That's so handy.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, yes. Anybody who's mixing in key, you know, the game changer when it's directly on the deck, not having to worry about jumping around or just sticking to songs that fit in key. So you got some flexibility there directly on the deck.
Love that. Love that.
You could actually key sync everything. So if you wanted to activate key sync, the next track you load in will stay usually within one semitone of the key. So help you along with some in-key mixing.
Yeah, not have crazy off transitions.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Slip feature, pretty much when that's activated, anything you do, once you're done doing it, it'll jump back to the original position that it's supposed to be in while moving. So if I did a backspin, it's back to the part of the song as if I didn't do anything.
Okay. So it just reverts back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Same thing with like
sense.
even like jumping cue points, same thing. It's back to the original part of the song it was supposed to be in.
Okay.
So it's if we never did anything to it, you know, it's jumping right back. And pretty much your loop section, you could pretty much activate an auto loop, which is usually 4 bars. And as you see, it's already looping. You can see it's highlighted in blue, so it's an active loop right now.
Cool.
You can start halving or doubling it if you wanted to start.
Yeah, chopping it up
Yeah.
or modifying it on the fly. Yeah, that's fun.
Oh yes.
I like that it's easy for me to even understand visually there too. So I appreciate that they did that.
Oh yes.
Love it. We got another comment actually. Philip again. He said this might be considered dumb. I've never used one of these. What is a good way to learn and start using the DDJ-REV7?
Yeah.
So what's a good way to start on this guy? Like, is there any best practices, or how do you feel about that?
If you're coming from a background of never touching a controller whatsoever, Pioneer themselves have a lot of documentation online in the form of videos on their YouTube channel if you want to get to know the actual equipment itself, in every individual effect and such like that. But in terms of like jumping into DJing as a whole, again, there's local places that you could tap into for live education online, but yeah, when it comes to the Rev7, Pioneer is your best bet right now at this point. Highly documented. It's been out over a year at this point, but it's still a very relevant controller in my opinion. Still very capable, and even though there's newer releases like the Rev5, I think this still it's holding its place right along the Rev5 at this point.
Cool. And just out of curiosity, since I'm unfamiliar with the exact differences, for like those out there that were maybe considering 5 versus 7, what's the difference between those two? Do you know?
So biggest difference there is one, the jog wheels. The Rev5 is non-motorized.
Okay.
So it's a little more traditional controller style jog wheels on there. They're not going to move. And the second biggest thing is, since this come out and other controllers around this time frame, Serato's come out with its dedicated stems feature. So being able to activate stems is pretty much a move that a lot of controllers are going to be coming out with moving forward. And the Rev5 has tapped into that. So there are dedicated buttons on there specifically for the stem features to isolate, you know, like your drums, your bass, your melodics, and your vocals on the tracks directly on the controller.
Okay.
And
Okay.
when I say like the Rev7 is still head to head with that, in my opinion, is even though it wasn't specifically made for stems, you could still use stems with this controller. You could either MIDI map one of the buttons, or several of the buttons, I should say,
Cool.
to activate that within Serato.
Cool. Okay.
Or most of the controllers and mixers on the market right now, you could replace one of the pad modes to be a dedicated pad mode for the stems as well. So,
I love that too, though. That sounds awesome. And you actually were talking about this. Did you prepare some stem stuff for that that you could show off?
yeah, quick little example. I'll load up a track here just to be able to see how the stems are going to act on here. So I have the stems mapped to my sampler section. So pretty much the top 4 pads here are going to be the individual elements on and off. So like the vocals. Taking the vocals away, you hear it's nice and clear. They do a great job on their algorithm.
Seriously, yeah.
I don't throw those words around.
I love how intuitive it is too. You hit the sampler button and all 4 of the top pads light up. That's obvious. There's going to be stuff mapped there to them.
Oh, yes.
I love it.
Yeah, the first row there is dedicated to essentially on and off.
Okay.
But the bottom row, they have a couple of little stem effects essentially. So
I figured as much. Yeah.
so it's not so abrasive. The second one below it is essentially vocal echo out. So instead of just on and off, it'll echo the vocals out.
Okay. Like a clean fade.
Self-taught.
Okay, a little
So,
slicker.
Yes, a lot more smooth to bring that in. The same thing with the beat. The actual drums itself will do that on the right-hand side. So I'll bring the vocals back in. If you want to just echo out just the drums, still going to maintain the bass and the melodics. The next one over would be essentially a break for the entire instrumental.
You don't have to know the album names are on my music, but at least try to find out who you in a room with.
And then you have an echo out for the entire instrumental. Bring back individual elements if you wanted. There's the melodic, the bass.
Man, so essentially you could just be making your own versions of these tunes on the fly, regardless of how they're actually orchestrated. I love that. That is so fun.
Start just tapping into each individual element of the songs, bring them back and forth. You want to, the drums out of one song mixed with the bass out of another song, or melodics of another song. Just do your own mashups on the fly.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I could get very, very lost in that for a while doing that.
Yes, absolutely.
I love that. That's so cool. So the slots up here for these slot buttons and the instant scratch button. You want to talk about that really quick?
Yes, indeed. So instant scratch, essentially the REV7 has some sound samples built in. You could even use it with or without the laptop at that point. If we bring in instant scratch on each deck, for example, last one is a beat, if I'm not mistaken. It's just an endless loop if you wanted to get some practice in and just scratch to. There's a couple other actual sound effects built in.
Yeah.
And those are, again, built into the controller itself, so it has nothing to do with Serato. So you could have this connected just by itself. If you're in a hotel room before a gig or something, throw some headphones on, get a little practice in, and cool. Yeah, it's just a nice little feature there.
Awesome. Love it. Love watching you scratch, man. Stuff's so cool.
Besides that, the other controls here are pretty much either they could be set up as hot cues, they could jump into the scratch bank feature, which is essentially just some quick load tracks. The scratch bank on Serato lets you preload either sound samples or full tracks if you wanted to, and you could have direct access to them at any point without having to scroll through everything. So you could have some quick favorites essentially at your fingertips without having to start digging through the virtual crates or anything like that. Sampler, same thing. If you have just individual sounds, typical like air horns and stuff like that, it's just a fingertip away. But what I've done, and what most people can do, is you could actually MIDI map anything, like most of the controllers out there. And I've MIDI mapped these to pretty much replicate the actual stem features too. So I have stems in 2 sections. So if I am working with stems, I could still jump into like my loop rolls or any of the other features on here without having to sacrifice the stems. I have them at access at any time, no matter where I'm at in the pad mode sections.
Cool. Okay. I like that they allow you to do that too with the functionality. That is handy.
Yes, a lot of flexibility there.
Everything's very immediate on this, which is what I appreciate. It looks like it's nothing's more than a button press or so, a sub menu away.
Yes, yeah. You notice every time I'm talking about it, I've never once looked at the laptop. Like unless I'm loading a track, there's no need for me to look at the laptop. Everything is at your fingertips here.
For sure, for sure. Oh, we had a couple extra comments. Oh, Katerina, thanks for watching. And yes, this is super cool. John commented here, do the platters have a decent amount of torque, like a 1200 for smooth TT transitions?
Yes, there's actually a utility menu in the REV7 itself. If you long press the back button, you could actually jump through and adjust a lot of different features on here, including the torque. You could have it low torque to feel like a traditional 1200, or high torque where you could have it feel a little bit more like the handpin style turntables, where like the Stantons or the Vestex, where it's a little more quick to react when you let go of the record and stuff like that.
Okay. Love that it's adjustable though.
Yes.
Thanks for the comments, everybody. Yeah, keep them coming if you have any other questions. Because what do we got here? Yeah, we've been cruising through here. We feel like we covered all your favorite features on this guy, or any other little Easter eggs you want to show about this thing?
Another one I like a lot is the smooth echo feature. Pretty much you could activate it either on the volume faders or the crossfader. I think the most intuitive way is on the actual volume faders itself. It's located right here. If you activate it, When you bring the volume down to the lowest point, it will actually echo out. So, example.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, so that you could use it on both of them. You could technically do it on the crossfader too, but don't see too much novelty in that. But it's there if you want to. You could adjust in the utilities, how many bars it'll echo for. If you wanted to do like half bar, quarter bar, anything like that,
Okay.
you could adjust it in there directly.
That was my only question about it. Yeah. How much customizability of that? That's great.
Like everything else, there's a lot of customization on there. Another feature, which not too many mixers have, is something called the silent cue. So if you activate the silent cue, you got the fader on, the volume up, you're not going to hear anything until you hit a cue point of something. So if you're really busy on a routine, you're on like one hand on left deck and you have to jump straight into something, you could have silent cue activated, and as soon as you hit it, it's back on. And the silent cue, you could apply a smooth echo to that as well in the utility. So even stuff like that, even just the cue points, you could have the smooth echo on. A lot of customization there.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's pretty practical, I'd assume, if you're
Yes.
really in it and you don't want to be breaking anything.
Yes.
Okay.
Like a lot of traditional turntables and controllers, you got your brake speed adjustments directly on here as well. On the front, you got like contour controls to, if you want the crossfader to be an immediate cut like most scratch DJs want to, or gradual fade to the center like most mixed DJs want to.
Okay.
You got a lot of I/O connectivity. You got your 2 USBs for 2 laptops at one time, making crossover between DJs super seamless. We could both just have one track off of one laptop here, another track off another laptop here. Nobody would be the wiser. We're just jumping in and out like it's double Dutch. Just
Yeah, I love it.
yeah.
Great, man. Yeah, this is just sick. It's so fun to watch you mess around with it.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, any other things you wanted to cover with this guy, or?
A lot of DJs always ask for it, but the microphone inputs on here does have echo on the microphone as well, so that's great for mobile DJs, club DJs, stuff like that. That's a time-old classic favorite of theirs. You got some safety here. You got an auxiliary inputs with some volume control on the front side. You can connect, a second piece of equipment like a backup iPad or even your cell phone. It could adjust from line level to portable level for anything like that.
Cool.
You got 2 microphone inputs, so you got some flexibility there.
Nice.
It's great for like the mobile DJs, anybody who's doing like weddings and stuff. You got your main announcement microphone. You got a second announcement for anybody who needs to speak to the crowd.
Yeah, I never really thought about that, but definitely like covering all their bases with that stuff. So.
Yes. And aside from that, yeah, you got some basic EQ on the microphone as well. So you got some highs and lows, get some little control there, so it's not going to sound too muddy with a cheap microphone,
Yep.
Sometimes we're working on a budget. You drop some investment on the controller, you might have to skimp a little bit on the mic once in a while. But,
Hear that.
You got the beautiful blue shirts.
Yeah, I was gonna say, these little Zounds blue Shure microphones we're rocking right here. So
yeah,
we were joking that they sound better because they're blue. So, but you want to send us off then with the performance, really kind of tear into it and show us how it's done.
Let's get into it.
Like I said, guys, the last chance for comments, so feel free to ask Juan anything about this if you need. Otherwise, I think we're just going to send you guys off of the stream with performance from him. So thanks for tuning in ahead of time, though, guys. And once again, this is the Pioneer DDJ-REV7. So check it out. We're going to have a link later to the website, if it isn't already there, to go check it out on Zzounds. So please do look into this if you're interested in a new controller. So. Ooh, yeah, man. Fierce, absolutely fierce. Absolutely love that, man. We had a bunch of comments coming in. Everybody seems to love it. We could read through them if you'd like, but otherwise, the gist is everybody absolutely loves what you're doing with the controller here. Everybody wants a piece of what you got. So. This is great, though, man. Thanks so much for coming in and doing this with us.
Of course.
Absolutely appreciate you kind of showing your expertise there, talking me through this, because as we all know on the stream, I'm no DJ, so this is incredibly useful for me and for you guys out there, I'm sure. So everybody, thanks for tuning in. And Juan, thanks so much for doing this again.
Pleasure.
And if you guys call into zZounds, you may very well be speaking to him in the future there about any of the DJ concerns there. So again, Juan, thanks so much, man.
Pleasure.
Really appreciate it. And guys, thanks again for tuning in. This is zZounds Live, and catch us next time for the next episode. Thanks again.